Happy Monday to everybody out there. And most importantly, let's figure out where these Big 12 teams fall after week 4 we actually got some conference games, Damon. We're going to break it down. Power rankings. Plus, Tommy Lloyd took a visit with a 5-star prospect. All that and more on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Don't go anywhere.
Hello and welcome on in, everybody, to the AZ Wildcats podcast, live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K, and I am, of course, Damon Fairall. That is Kevin Thomas, and like I said, we are the AZ Wildcats podcast, coming to you live from PHNX HQ Trace here in lovely, beautiful downtown Phoenix. But Kevin, the Arizona Wildcats did not play a game this weekend. We did, however, have tons of unbelievable Big 12 action that we're going to be breaking down and talking about all day long, what that means for Arizona, Noah Fifita, Brent Brennan, and the Cats moving forward, going into a massive and pivotal game against Iowa State on Saturday at 4 p.m. You know your boys are going to be locked and loaded with all of your premier Arizona Wildcats pregame and postgame show coverage. Pregame show 30 minutes prior to the opening kickoff, and then postgame show 10 to 15 after the clock hits 0. But Kevin, how was your weekend today? How are you feeling about Arizona Wildcats and their Big 12 chances after this weekend?
Feeling good, feeling great. Like I said, happy Monday to start off the show to everybody out there. It was a really fun weekend for me. Obviously, huge day of college football on Saturday. We're going to break all that down. Texas Tech belts to ass up in Salt Lake. And then also we have ASU playing a great game against Baylor. You know, that was a hotly contested one as well. Highly entertaining matchup. We have a lot of Big 12 football to talk about on this show. Had a fun weekend, Damon. Went out. If you haven't done like a fork and film experience, that's really cool. Watch Ratatouille. They were serving me the food that they eat in Ratatouille as it was happening in the movie.
Wow.
It was a very cool way to skip Sunday football and Cam Scattaboo and all that kind of noise that was going on Sunday night, Damon, and a nice way to get over the Mercury Game 1 loss to the Lynx. But overall, it was a good weekend, and it was really carried by Big 12 football. So let's get into it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Big 12 football side of things, we had two absolute marquee games, I would say, going into the weekend. You had Arizona State versus Baylor, of course, and then you had Texas Tech versus Utah. And both those games, I would argue, be two of the most pivotal matchups in terms of how the conference is going to shake out over the course of time. But I think we learned a lot about some of the perceived top tier teams in the Big 12 throughout the weekend. And honestly, I think that this weekend goes to show that just, in my opinion, the Big 12 is the most fun conference in this country, Kevin. Like, I think you go into every game almost not exactly knowing who's going to win. The difference between the bottom tier teams and the upper echelon teams is very slim. Like, this is just an all-around insanely fun conference.
It's the most fun conference in America, Damon. I think there's no really sugarcoating it. Like, the ACC is, top heavy is not even the way to describe it, because even the teams at the top are kind of questionable as well, right?
Clemson sucks.
The SEC is obviously a perennial power conference in college football, but it doesn't necessarily have the depth of like real teams that the Big 12 does. I think from like 1 to like 12 in the Big 12 are all really good football programs, right? And I think it's a really entertaining conference. Coming in preseason, it was the talk of, is this the quarterback conference? Is this the best quarterback conference in America? And it just still might be, right? But not only that, but these programs have paired that elite quarterback play with the best defense in America. Pound for pound, probably. I mean, we just saw what Texas Tech was able to do on the road against, I know Utah, they have a lot of flaws, but that is a very good football team still. And I think what Texas Tech was able to do, it proved that not only are they maybe the best team in the Big 12 right now, but they're one of the best teams in the nation. And I think that people got to start respecting these Big 12 teams a little bit more. This is not, like I said, the ACC, where like you have a couple teams beating up on some really, really bad ones there at the bottom. This is just a conference that is hitter after hitter after hitter. And I think the Big 12 has been by far the most watchable conference, Damon, and I really don't think it's close.
Yeah, and in the game, even the games where the Big 12 teams have lost per se to some of the other teams that they've played, like the other elite competition that they've played. So, for example, the Baylor versus Auburn game, and Baylor loses that one. Highly entertaining performance. Even the ASU Mississippi State game was a great football game, all things considered. And so, I think even when you're looking at the teams, maybe the upper echelon of the conference is not equal to the upper echelon of the Big Ten, the upper echelon of the SEC. I still think that this conference is like about as entertaining of football as you could possibly get. And as Uncle Ben says here in the chat, like you're gonna get some crazy environments here in the Big 12 coming up. I think Brent Brennan echoed that in his press conference. Just like this is, we're gearing up for playing in an insane environment week in and week out rest of the season. Every road game is going to be like as true of a test as possible.
I mean, look at K-State. I think K-State is the perfect case study for this, right? K-State is a team that most people, if you ask them, Big 12 fan or national fan, what do you think about K-State? They're going to say that they're bad. They're going to say that K-State is not a good football team. But I think if you look at where K-State is talent-wise, what the players that they have on that roster, if you throw K-State in the ACC, they're okay.
Yeah.
They're okay. Their season would be okay. They're probably going to make a bowl game. But in the Big 12, this is a team that we're going to get to our power rankings here shortly, but like this is a team that is in the bottom of the Big 12 conference right now for good reason. But I also think that K-State, like that's a talented team. People are going to try to take that win and use it almost like against Arizona in many ways, right? Oh, well, you beat K-State and K-State's not nothing. K-State is still talented. Yes, they're in a very down period right now for their football program. One of the worst starts in recent memory for K-State fans. And if you ask like guys like John Kurtz, who cover K-State, it's doomsday over there. But that does not mean that as a Big 12 side that they are, not still talented and not still among one of the better, teams in the top half of the country, right? And I think like from a talent standpoint, and I think that when you look at the Big 12, that's part of what makes this conference so great is that the competition level is so high. It's something that we talked about with this Arizona Wildcats roster coming into this year, right? The level of competition making the team better. The level of competition in this conference, UCF is undefeated. We don't think UCF is very good, but they're undefeated. And I think that that's what we're talking about in this conference. The worst teams in this conference, like Oklahoma State, clearly not very good. But for like, there's only one Oklahoma State in this conference. There's only one team that is truly, truly bad in this conference, and it's Oklahoma State.
Correct.
And I don't think you can really say the same for any of the other power conferences, right? Like there are multiple bad teams in the SEC. There are multiple bad teams in the ACC. The Big 12 does not have like a ton of bad teams just stinking it up at the bottom.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And Glenn, it's good to see you too, buddy, as he pops in the chat and immediately disagrees with one thing that we're saying. I would say in regards to Kansas State, I guarantee, Kevin, we're going to look back on the end of the season after it's all said and done. Listen, I said it after they lost to us or before they lost to us, saying if they lose this one, start 1-3. That's I think you could pretty much cook up the season. Like they're not making a bowl game in Manhattan. I stand by that. I do think, however, that Kansas State is going to have at least one win that they should not have at the end of the year, where they go into they play like let me look up their schedule here. They're going to play one of the top tier teams. They're not going to be taken seriously, and then they're probably going to shock them, in my opinion. I'm predicting that that's going to happen. Kansas State's schedule upcoming here is UCF, Baylor, TCU, Kansas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Utah, and Colorado. So I think that they'll beat one of those Baylor, TCU, Tech, Utah teams, honestly, in my opinion. But
they're talented enough to do so, right? And Chris Kleiman, like people, like there's a lot of criticism fairly levied at Chris Kleiman right now, but he's still a quality coach. And I think he's still capable of getting this team, like you said, to be a spoiler for some of these teams in the Big 12 at the top, because people in the fan bases might want to overlook K-State, but I guarantee you these coaching staffs are not looking over K-State because they know exactly the type of talent they have over there in Manhattan.
I do agree with what Glenn said here, though. Like, there will only be one Big 12 team in this playoff. As much as Kevin and I will stand up here and get in front of the microphones and tell you guys, like, this is the most fun conference in America. There's so much parity. The top to bottom there's nothing like it in the country. And I think we stand by all of those things. The national perspective and the consensus from the voters and the committee will continue to be that the Big 12 is a second-rate conference. And so, I mean, I think you see that with ASU's ranking, as Glenn says. Like, I'll be honest, I find it egregious that ASU can go into Baylor on the road, beat them, and not get ranked.
Yeah, that's not
Auburn
right.
did
That's
the
not
same
right.
thing, and it immediately catapulted them into the rankings, Kevin. Immediately, Auburn was a ranked team after doing that. The exact same thing, going into Waco and winning the game. ASU goes and does that, and what does that do? It drops you in the rankings. I mean, I think that you're behind the 8 ball from how the feeling of the conferences is going to be nationally, but I also think that like the people that are informed and watching these games every week are going to sit here and be like, man, this conference is so much damn fun to watch.
It is, right? And I think, we're going to get into this with our power rankings a little bit, Damon, but like part of what makes this conference so much fun is the level of talent. Like, I want to talk about this with you more when we preview Texas Tech and talk about like where they're at in the power rankings. But like Will Hammond, I know you and I were texting about it on Saturday. Like Will Hammond enters that game, and this is the backup quarterback for Texas Tech, and he looks like he could run the SEC if he wanted to. The way he was playing for like the end of that game, and I think that really speaks to the level of talent that's on these Big 12 rosters. I know Texas Tech paid for their roster like a bit like an SEC team would, but I think it kind of speaks to in the NIL era, the talent on these rosters is really starting to get, I wouldn't say more equal, right? Because it's actually probably becoming less equal in a lot of different ways. But I think the parity now is legitimate. Like you can't just be at the top of the SEC paying for your roster and some team in the ACC is not paying for their roster and expect it to be the same. No, now you have teams like Texas Tech that can go to their boosters and say, hey guys, if you want to compete, invest. We have a coach in Joey McGuire who we believe in. We have the foundations on this roster that we believe in. If you can just pay for us right now to get us over the hump, we can see some real success. And I think it's Texas Tech is a great example of what investment in the NIL era can do for not only that program, but for the conference, right? Because if Texas Tech can translate this stuff that they're doing in Utah, that they're doing against, Arkansas Pine Bluff into real, like true postseason success, it only benefits the Big 12. Right, I know that what Glenn said in the chat I think is true, that like you're not going to have a bunch of teams from the Big 12 in the college football playoff. That's just not the way that the football playoff is going to really ever be for the Big 12 unless they become that perennial winner like the SEC has been. Well, as we talked about on this show, it feels like week over week now, like the SEC bias is real. Like it's a thing that is out there. The brand bias is real. But if teams like Texas Tech can be, what is the saying? Talent don't work hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard, something like that.
Yep.
Well, hard work can beat brand bias when brand bias don't work hard. I think we're seeing that with Alabama right now. Like, I don't think there's any level of brand bias that can save that program and get them to where the ESPNs and all that stuff would want Alabama to be at the end of the season. That's just not a team that is quality enough to make it that far. But Texas Tech and some of these teams at the top of the Big 12 do look like they're legitimate, Damon. So, yeah, I'm excited for this new era of the Big 12 and what it could bring to not only Arizona, but the rest of the conference as a whole. I think like the rising tides raises all boats saying really applies here.
Yeah, I think you're seeing it from, when you're talking about like the modernization of NIL and how a Texas Tech can really take advantage of that and use it to make themselves more relevant as a football program. You're seeing it on the opposite foot as well with a team like Clemson, where Dabo Swinney is, almost outright refusing to get with the times from an NIL perspective, even though Clemson has the resources to do so. And then a team like Clemson, a program like Clemson, a school that recruits like Clemson is kind of falling off of a cliff because of it. Or, they're not bringing in a bunch of transfers to that school as well. Like they're not really utilizing the transfer portal. There's another kind of big time program that's going through something similar right now that I'm struggling trying to remember which one it was.
It's not to the same level, but like Oklahoma State is going through that same.
You know what? It actually was Oklahoma State.
They're going through a similar problem,
yeah,
right?
Mike Gundy has just kind of refused to get with the times, and you're seeing what that looks like after 20 years of sustained success in the Big 12, where Oklahoma State was behind Oklahoma and Texas, probably the third most successful team. I think there were probably even times there where they were more successful than Texas for large portions of that time period. And now they are the absolute joke of the conference when the two premier teams leave. And you would have thought I think in like deep down, like when, that move was announced, you probably would have thought Oklahoma State is about to become a powerhouse in the Big 12. And it's been the opposite.
Yeah, and I think like what Mike Gundy is experiencing right now is like maybe being a little resistant to it at the beginning, but I think he's been pretty much outright like begging for more investment from the Oklahoma State boosters in a way of like when they're facing off against Oregon, he's pretty much blaming that huge discrepancy on the huge discrepancy they have in NIL, when it's in reality it's like you got whooped by like 60 points in that matchup. You know what I mean? Like, that's not an NIL
guy
thing.
That, who was being funded by an oil tycoon for, the better part of the start of his career. So I think it's insane for an Oklahoma State fan or employee to be coming out and being like, can you believe the money that's being thrown around in college football these days? God, I wish T. Boone Pickens was still alive. And you're like, what? What are those? How are those two things adding up? But Oklahoma State back in those days with T. Boone Pickens in charge, they would be doing what Texas Tech is doing right now.
Yeah,
we're not in those day and age anymore.
We are not. And talking about Mike Gundy, I think is actually a great segue, Damon, into our power rankings, because spoiler alert, Mike Gundy and his squad are going to be near the bottom on both of our lists for certain. So we're going to do power rankings here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Right after this quick break, leave a like, drink your water, don't go anywhere. And I want to talk to you about our friends over at Pure Edibles. Now, you see it on the screen, and for our audio listeners at home, you're looking at the Noble Herb Dispensary's new Tower IPA infused, hops, terpene, aroma infused, all-in-one pen. Me and Damon, product testing, just doing some scientific research using this here device. And I will say, you might hear IPA pen and be like, that sounds insane. And it sounded insane to me too until I tried it. And it tastes like an IPA, but you get all the wonderful benefits of a nice THC all-in-one pen. So check out the Pure Edibles and Mother Road collab. Who says happy hour has to end? With Noble Road's new Tower Station IPA all-in-one, it's happy hour all the time. And if you're in Arizona, swing by select local dispensaries and grab your Tower Station all-in-one from Noble Road. Cheers to happy hour all day, every day. Go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries here in the Freedom State that dispense the best, most pure edibles in the game. Pure Edibles.
Kevin, let's also talk about the go-to spot when it comes to getting together and getting all your favorite local Arizona team gear.
Yes.
We love our friends over at Rally House. They got 3 Valley locations, whether it's Tempe, Mesa, or Glendale. We've all walked into different sports apparel stores, seen some teams. Arizona, we have to deal with it about as bad as anybody. But you walk into a store, maybe it's a store that's like really close to Chase Field or the Suns Arena, and you're in there and you're going, is that's Lakers stuff on the wall? There's a whole Dodgers section over there, and you're like, I thought we were in Phoenix, Arizona. That's the great thing about Rally House, is that they actually care about these teams, the local teams here in this market. The Arizona teams, the only type of rivalry that you're going to see is if you go to the Tempe Marketplace Rally House location, you're going to see some University of Arizona gear in Tempe, because that's the one time that they're really going to, kind of go out on the fringes and be like, okay, guys, we do still have some Arizona fans that we got to cater to in Tempe, but in general, they only care about Arizona teams. They don't stock the rival teams that, makes me so angry when I go to the different stores. And every time you visit a Rally House, you're guaranteed to find something new, unique, and that matches your game day vibe. Kevin, I know your dog Jack has a collar,
yes!
St. Louis Blues collar.
Stole the words out of my mouth.
It's like that's the epitome of Rally House, like everyday thing that you just want to style it up a little bit more. You want to get your dog maybe some of that new swag. Like, go check it out on rallyhouse.com. I guarantee that they have something for you that you're going to enjoy to fit your vibe. Find your local Rally House location. Shop their entire product assortment online at www.rallyhouse.com today.
Damon, you're so right. I was going to mention, like, Rally House is like the spot for your everyday kind of repping of your team. Mm-hmm. Literally, that's the exact mindset that I had when I got my dog Jack the collar. I was thinking, like, everybody has to know that my dog is also a St. Louis Blues hockey fan. How else are they going to know unless I get the Rally House dog collar that goes?
They wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know. But What they are going to know, Damon, is where you have teams in your Big 12 power rankings.
Now, I forgot, Kevin, were we going to try to do it where we went 4 at a time?
We were, and then we at no point in the show prep today thought about that.
Because I could do that real quick for us if that's something that we wanted to try to do still.
Yeah, we could try to do that.
Just for the sake of the show, not talking about all 16 of the teams that Kevin and I have ranked and then moving on to the next guy's 16 teams. But yeah, give me a half second here and you intro us for our Big 12 power rankings.
I will. So this weekend you had a ton of pivotal games like Damon alluded to in the opening segment of this here podcast. We were talking about Texas Tech and Utah. And I think that is probably the most consequential game that you saw this past weekend in terms of where teams are falling. It really feels like Texas Tech took the reins of the Big 12 this past weekend with that W over Utah. And it felt like Utah, who was kind of like I'll describe them as like a hipster pick in the conference. It felt like if you didn't want to pick Baylor, if you didn't want to pick Iowa State, if you didn't want to pick Texas Tech, hell, preseason, if you didn't want to pick ASU to win the conference, you might have been picking like BYU or you might have been picking Utah. And I think once everything happened with Jake Retzlaff's departure from BYU, it felt like Utah became that sexy pick. That, Kyle Whittingham and what could be his last season, rides off in the sunset. Devin Dampier comes in, revitalizes this program. And then Saturday happens, and you got Joel Klatt and Gus Johnson. And I always say this, but it should be a federal crime to get embarrassed in front of Gus Johnson when he's calling your game because Devin Dampier looked awesome for his first 8 passing attempts. He went 7 for 7 and then 7 for 8. And after that, it was all downhill. So that was probably the most consequential game. You had ASU pulling off it was a buzzer beater, right? You pulled off the buzzer beater field goal to end that game. And then you also had, KU absolutely whooping West Virginia this past weekend as well. I think a lot of people that maybe bought into that Pitt win for West Virginia said, plus 13.5, they cover that. And Jalen Daniels said, brother, just watch. And they go out there and get a big 30-point W over West Virginia. And it feels like Rich Rod's squad is back probably to where they're belonging in these power rankings coming up. And
I think we got some rivalry game madness in that one, looking back on it, and I think, from our perspective, you have to give plaudits to a team that goes in on the road and beats a team that's better than them, beats a power conference team on paper that was favored over them. So we're going to continue to give credit to wins like that. But at the same time, I think it's pretty clear at this point that West Virginia is just not a good team. And They were able to kind of pull a fast one on a Pitt team that probably didn't take them very seriously here. But Kevin, I believe we do have my power rankings ready to go now as we work on getting these in here. And I did tell you something off air. I ended up making a change to it and not going with what I initially told you. But maybe it is still I might still have this team a little bit too high. I got Kansas State in that 13 spot. Ahead of some of these other schools here. But primarily, I think the main things to point out on here, Kevin, West Virginia going back to their 15th place after bumping up to 12. And then Oklahoma State going down after already being in last place, after being in last place in every one of my power rankings I've done this season. I couldn't even keep them in the 16 spot, Kevin. I thought about maybe putting an infinity sign next to Oklahoma State's name on my power rankings. How can you put them lower? Is there a place to put them lower than where they already are, which is last? That's where Oklahoma State belongs.
I mean, they are not good, Damon. Like Mike Gundy, we were talking about it in the segue into this segment.
They lost to Tulsa.
He's got at home. Mike Gundy has to go, and like he is Oklahoma State football in a lot of ways. Mike Gundy is Oklahoma State football, but it reaches a point in which the relationship is untenable. And it's like I was listening. I shout out Drake Toll's content all the time. Locked On Big 12 is doing good stuff over there. He brought up the great point of like just on a human level, Damon, like there's a point to where if you and I don't feel like we're getting the support from Espo that we need, like it would be really hard to come in here and do our job every day to the best of our ability and fight for this company, fight for our podcast and stuff like that. If you're Mike Gundy, and I understand he gets paid a lot of money to do his job, but just on a human level, if you're Mike Gundy and you feel like you're not getting the support, it's hard to go out there and give 21, 22 hours every day of your life to prepare for these games, right? And to prepare for the recruiting season. And it feels like it's become untenable, and it reaches a point where you just got to let it go, and you got to reset, and you got to restart. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where Oklahoma State's at right now.
Kevin, can you tell me how many students go to the University of Tulsa?
Boy. I'm probably going to sound like an idiot. Like when we asked our guy SPG how many cows are in the world, and he said 700.
You might sound like an idiot, and I'm
going to say 12,000.
12,000. Tulsa has a total student population of 3,500. They have a undergraduate student population of 2,851. And Kevin, they are the smallest populated public FBS school in the entire country.
Wow.
And Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy just lost to that team.
Wow.
They are a team that has about as little resources as you could possibly have. They're not even a good Group 5 team. They're actually kind of a mediocre to bad Group 5 team, and they beat Oklahoma State. I don't want to harp too much on Oklahoma State for too long because it's like, why are we just going to do this? Are we going to do this every week with Oklahoma State where it's just like, and they're still last, but my God, are these guys terrible?
Yeah, no, they're really, really not good, Damon. And it's in one of those spots where it's like, at least if you're a West Virginia fan, you have that Pitt win to look back on this season and be
yeah, exactly.
Be like, I feel like Rich Rodriguez is still the guy to lead this program to where we need to be. If you're an Oklahoma State fan, it's like, it's at a point where it's like, do you watch every game at this point? Or is it pain? Or is it just pain? And you at some point have to take into account your mental health and say, you know what, I'm not doing this every Saturday. And that's a sad place for any fan base to be, Damon. So shall we get into the rest of your bottom four here?
Just in my bottom four, Oklahoma State sucks. They're going down after being last already. West Virginia back in their rightful second to last spot. UCF moves out of the bottom four. We'll see them here in a second. And then Colorado and Kansas State stay in the same places for me. After I believe Kansas State was on a bye week, which almost makes them look better to me because I think, that's just the quintessential team of like, they're definitely better than what they've shown this season. And I'm going to continue to think that all season long, but the bye week almost made them look better just because they didn't play football. But Colorado is not good. They beat Wyoming by 17. I know it was like not really a game. So it's not as if it was, a situation where you're sitting there and you're like, wow, it was really went down to the wire, but I don't think Colorado is good at all. And yeah, I have no belief in them, but that's my bottom four there. Kevin, let's move on to your bottom four, sir.
Yeah, no, in my bottom four, Damon, I do have some similar squads here. As you see, I have Oklahoma State in last, K-State in second to last. And that's just mostly because, as we talked about earlier on this podcast, like in terms of expectation and talent in relation to what the actual results have been, Damon, K-State has been the second worst team in this conference. Yeah. Like UCF is not good. They're undefeated. West Virginia, not good. They beat Pitt. K-State cannot say any of that. They're not good, and their only win is a Dakota school. And then you move up to West Virginia, who, like you said earlier, returns back to the bottom of this conference here after a really bad loss there to Kansas. Not like a bad loss in the sense of like, how did you lose that game, but just not competitive. And then UCF, who I think UCF fans will argue that they're a little bit too low after being undefeated and beating an FCS school in UNC. I mean, beating Bill Belichick's UNC. But yeah, they move up because they're undefeated, but not much after that.
Kevin, why don't you move on and show us your next four here?
Rounding out the bottom half of this conference, I have Colorado, who admittedly did pick up a W, so good for them. I'm still not confident that the direction of the program exists, honestly. I'm not really too confident that Caden Salter is going to take them where they need to be. I don't know. Colorado has been confusing to me all year, quite honestly, with you, Damon. They beat Wyoming. And if you talk to Utah fans, I guess Wyoming is Alabama, but I don't know. Still not confident in Colorado.
The road to 10-2, Kevin, is still on. That's all I'll say about Colorado. The road to 10-2 is still on, baby.
The road to 10-2 is indeed still mathematically possible. Maybe not.
Yeah, Max, exactly. Max gets it. Max gets it on the money.
And then Baylor coming in for me at number 10. That defense is absolutely spineless, Damon, as we said. They tried to slow down ASU's offense a little bit. They held them under 30 in that matchup. So, I mean, consolation prize there, I guess. But like we texted about on Saturday night, like the defense to end that game, you know exactly what you have to do to stop that. And you're not doing it. And I feel like, plaudits to ASU for going on the road, winning that game. That is a big W for them. We're going to get to them probably in the top half of these power rankings. But Baylor, I mean, like, Dave Aranda's seat continues to warm. The thermostat is being cranked up just a couple temperature degrees every single day now, it feels like. And Baylor just continues to precipitously fall down the power rankings.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I don't agree with you. I have Baylor higher, and I still think that, like, they lost to Auburn, they lost to ASU. Granted, both were home games, which is not exactly the greatest of situations. You want to protect your home field, but I think Baylor is still a slightly better team than you are probably giving them credit for, just because I believe in Sawyer Robertson still. And I think that ASU is a very good team. So it's like losing to them by 3 on a last second field goal is not something to like scoff at, in my opinion.
For the record, I think Baylor is still like good, but I think like the losses that they have had, I'm not saying they can't get back up into my top 5 of the power rankings, but just off of the vibes of where they're at right now, which is a lot of how I go into this list of like, where are the vibes of your program at right now?
Yeah, you're a little bit more, we've noticed through 4 weeks, you definitely are a little bit more volatile in your in the way that you move teams up and down. And I'm a little bit more, I think, steady of like, I still feel this way about this team despite this result. But yeah, moving on for me, I do not have Baylor in my bottom half. I do have a lot of very similar teams, though, as I did last week. I'm going UCF at 12. They're moving up because they remain undefeated. They beat the crap out of UNC, and maybe they're a team that needs to be, taken a little bit more seriously in this conference. I would not be shocked to see them above Cincinnati in the near future here, Kevin, if they can continue. I think that Cincinnati is kind of where if I had to put a break in terms of like what the teams that I kind of respect the most, I think Houston and Arizona are definitely both very good teams that maybe are just a step below what I consider to be the true contenders of the conference, I guess. And I'm going to remain consistent in saying that until I get proven wrong. So if U of A goes into Ames and wins that game, I'm going to be singing a different tune in my next week's power rankings. But as of right now, this is how I feel about it still. I do still think Houston and Arizona are teams that are good teams and could definitely rise even further to the top here.
Yeah, I actually am huge on Houston. I think I tweeted it the other day that, like, if you see, if you're looking at this conference right now and you're seeing what Houston is doing, we're going to get into, like, the top half of this list. But, like, if you want a surprise pick for who could shock the conference and win it all this year, like ASU style, it's kind of Houston right now. I mean,
I'd say it's us or Houston.
Yeah, I was going to say Arizona's in that conversation as well. But I think, I think people are more in on Houston. So I think if you want to make that pick, I could see it. Maybe Damon and I are a little too close to it, but it feels like it's Arizona and Houston for, like, if you want to make a really sexy shocker pick, those are the two schools. So I'm in on Houston, but yeah, like you were alluding to, I want to see more before I start putting them in the first half. I've seen some people put them like 6th on their rankings, and I don't think Houston's quite there yet, but they definitely could get there.
Do you think that has anything to do with just the idea that, like, teams definitely, not teams, pundits, people that are opinionated on this stuff are definitely more in on, like, Connor Weigman than Noah Fifita?
Yeah.
Despite I don't think that being the case or fair or truthful. Like, I think, if you're going to look at what Noah Fifita's looked at his best, it's far better than anything Connor Weigman's done in his collegiate career. And Connor Weigman on talented teams has looked, putrid. Like so bad that they were like running him out of town type of bad. So, I'm not to say that I don't think he's a good quarterback or that he's talented. I think Houston's defense is very good. As we've been talking about all offseason, like, Willie Fritz seems to really have this team and this program headed in the right direction. They deserve to have our respect. But at the same time, if we're looking at Houston versus Arizona, the reason I would put Arizona above is because I believe more in Noah Fifita than I do in Connor Weigman. And I don't know if that's unfair. I don't know if, like you said, that's a thing where we're so close to the situation that we're going to, continue to try to, up our guys because we watch them more consistently. But I also think I've been very fair to Arizona in all these lists. I have them in the bottom half of the Big 12 still, despite a great undefeated start to the season. So for me, I'm still going Noah Fifita over Connor Weigman, and that's kind of my hair splitter there.
I am as well, and I also think, again, another hair splitter because Houston's defense has been good as well. But I think Arizona's defense feels more real at this point. I know that they haven't really played anybody that maybe gives you that real indication, but I just think that Arizona's defense feels like it's more scalable to the rest of the teams in the Big 12 compared to Houston's. And we do have the second half of our Big 12 power rankings to get to. Who is number 1? Where is Iowa State? How far did Utah fall? Is ASU a top 5 team? All that and more after the break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Drink your water, leave a like, don't go anywhere. But if you do go somewhere, make it Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Please. Where you do you, whether it's Wild Horse Pass, V Kiva, or any other locations out here in the Freedom State, Lone Butte, Santan Valley, or Santan Mountain, I should say. Gila River is where all the best slots, table, sports books are located. And if you don't even want to go to Gila to gamble, you can do that because you do you. They have comedy shows, concerts, all types of live podcast tapings. Me and Eric Ruby from the ASU show, we took our significant others out and we watched the big game, or what was it?
Yeah.
The Straight Game podcast with Mike Bibby and Shaq. And it was a great time. And then I, got my butt up into the sports book and gambled on some UFC. And it was a great night. That's the kind of night that you have when you go to Gila River Resorts and Casinos, where you do you. Visit playathila.com for more details.
Visit playathila.com for more details and visit brandonbills.com if you want the ultimate premium custom headwear and apparel in the game. I got a Brandon Bills hat on my head right now. I know my guy Max was putting some pre-podcast bets down that Damon was going to be wearing a Brandon Bills today. Cash that one. And here's another thing that you're going to want to check out when you have some cash in your pocket. BrandonBills.com, that campus collection, Kevin, because I got one on my head right now. Of course, this is the Bear Down hat. There's some great state outline hats. There's the old school Wildcat logos. I mean, they have everything that you could possibly imagine as a University of Arizona fan. You just got to go check that out for yourself. And even for our ASU trolls here in the chat, they have some, I'll throw you a bone. Good looking hats in their own right for what you guys got going on. Of course, they have some Phoenix Suns hats, some Phoenix Mercury hats. I have my special limited edition Diamondbacks hat that they came out with earlier this season. Brandon Bills is just an absolute staple, Kevin, of the Valley sports community. When we go to Tucson, all we see is Brandon Bills hats, everybody wearing them. I don't know if you noticed when we were doing the media day at McHale, a lot of the U of A managers were wearing Brandon Bills hats. These are people that are able to get team issued gear, and they're throwing the team issued hats to the side and saying, get me the damn branded Bills. And for a good reason too, Kevin. They are not only the best looking, but they are the most comfortable hats in the business. Head to brandonbills.com, use promo code BBPHNX and get 15% off your first order. Yeah, Max, the Damon props, I mean, they're cashing. They look good right now. And Glenn takes another shot saying he put TCU as the best bets next week. Brother, you don't want that smoke. Your boy has put together a winning week every week this season, and you keep coming at me like I'm losing, and all I keep doing is winning.
I will say, I feel like, and knocking on all the wood around me right now, I feel like you and I are going to have a pretty good little competition to end this season.
Yeah.
We've both been putting together some, I think there's only been one losing week, and it's been mine, unfortunately, but I think that's the case, no?
Yeah, I'm looking right now at your, so this week, what happened in the Iowa game? That cashed, correct?
Cash.
Baylor, L.
The under in the Texas Tech game. Oh my God.
Under in the Texas Tech game was the freest.
It was the freest money of all time. Are you serious?
Kevin, that number went up at kickoff to 58.5, and I immediately was like, everything I have now. I wish I put more.
Yeah, no, I was thinking maybe it was you I was texting with about it, but I was just like, I should have put my rent on it. 100%. To be honest with you, I would have had double the rent money.
Everybody in the world could have just told you that under was going to cash. Utah and Texas Tech, the two maybe best defensive teams in this conference, arguably. Don't get mad, Glenn. ASU's up there as well. But two arguably best defensive teams in this conference, and then the quarterbacks are not like it's not like it's Sawyer Robertson versus Josh Hoover. Like it's Devin Dampier versus Baron Morton, two guys who are good. But have we really seen them light it up necessarily?
We saw Will Hammond light it up.
Yeah, we did see Will Hammond light it up, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit. But that under bet was free money, and Glenn says free money again with the Kansas versus Cincy. I assume that is you're saying Kansas money line over under. Let us know in the comments. We'll be interested to know. But I just keep winning, man. I'm just going to keep doing it all season long, Kevin. But yeah, another winning week for you as well, my guy.
Yeah, no, very excited about that.
The only losing week you've had is you got hooked on a half point by Ohio State.
You're actually right. I think it might have been. Oh, you're right. It was. Damn. Yeah, you're right. I mean, all we do is give out good bets on this show. That's all we do.
It is what it is.
And we also do some power rankings. As we get into the second half of our power rankings, here is my 8 through 5. On mine, I have BYU at 8. I have Arizona moving down, mostly just because they didn't compete this week. Kansas.
How could you?
I know. I felt bad. Kansas moving up after the victory over West Virginia. And that was less about beating a team that, like, it's not like West Virginia is necessarily an impressive victory for a team like Kansas, but I just think that, I don't know. Look, Jalen Daniels for the first time, I think, not for the first time, but really for the first time consistently, looks like he has command over this offense. And I think that that is the big takeaway for Kansas. Because if Jalen Daniels, we talked about it before on this podcast, if Jalen Daniels can be one of the top 6 quarterbacks in the Big 12, Kansas has as good of a chance as anybody here at the top 7 on this list that we're going to get to, Damon. It feels like KU is really competitive. I don't think that they're going to win the conference, but if somehow they ended up in a Big 12 championship setting and we're playing like a Texas Tech, like that wouldn't be the most shocking possible result, in my opinion. And then Arizona State. Hey, look, I was heavily critical of Sam Leavitt and Arizona State when they deserved it earlier in this season, but I've been good about giving plaudits where they're due to Sam Leavitt specifically and the rest of the team by proxy. I think that this W is huge for Arizona State. Absolutely massive victory for Arizona State. Now, did they look perfect in this game? No. Did Sam Leavitt look like every bit the player that he's been advertised for all the offseason again? No. But he did look better, right? He did show some sort of abilities out there. Now, do I still trust him to be one of the best throwers in the conference? No. But that run game is real. You still have Jordan Tyson. You still have that defense. You still have Kenny Dillingham. This it's a very good team in the Big 12. And now that they have a win over Baylor, I can put them back in that top 5 where many ASU fans feel like they belong. So, yeah.
You know what, Joshua? A lot of people would not agree with you on that statement.
Correct.
I think Kevin is very much a nice guy, but I'm one of the most hated men in Tempe. That's a damn fact. And I don't even say stuff. Like this weekend, for example, and Kevin, I came into the office talking to you about this today. I'm getting text messages, apologize to Scattaboo. I've only ever said I thought Cam Scattaboo would be a good to serviceable NFL player. Never said he was going to be some scrub at the NFL level. People are telling me like Totre's calling me out in the PHNX Sun Devils post-game show because I said, hey, going into this year, one thing we're going to have to monitor is ASU still going to win every one-score game because Kenny Dillingham is just that guy? Or is that going to regress to the mean a little bit more? So far, we're 1-1 in one-score games this year. And I got Anthony Totre calling me out in the post-game, acting like I'm some sort of criminal for bringing up that talking point, when I think it's a very, very apt thing to talk about. And so, listen, I think it's true, Glenn. It's true, Glenn. I've been trying to be honest all season long. I really have. As much as I like to poke and make fun, and we all like to joke around, but Kevin has been nastier than me this year. And
Glenn exposed me.
I want the record to show Kevin has been nastier than me this year.
I've enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie. It's been fun.
It has been fun.
It's been fun. But yeah, Glenn definitely read the room there.
I get a little bit of credit for it because I rubbed off on you so much, making you dislike ASU so much.
You're like my rivalry sensei.
Yeah, for sure. But moving on to my top 4 through 8 here, or 5 through 8, I should say. I'm going Kansas down 1 slightly, not because I don't respect Kansas. I know they got the W and it was an easy W. I just don't really care, I guess, about West Virginia and beating them.
Yeah, especially at home.
Yeah, so I think congrats, you got the job done. They only moved down 1 spot. It's not like they're getting moved down a bunch, but I'm flipping them in BYU because I just think I've seen enough out of BYU at this point where I'm like, damn, they have a really good defense.
Yeah,
and so I think BYU is. I think that their team around Bear Bachmeier is almost so good that they're going to be they have a contending roster.
Yeah.
They just don't have the quarterback. And that's not to disrespect a guy who's a true freshman. It's a really tough spot to be put into, and he never should have been the starter there. He was actually at freaking Stanford.
I'm not even making a joke, even though it sounds like I'm making a joke. It's just the reality of the situation. They're like a Jake Retzlaff away from being a top 3 team in this conference, bar none. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to make
they'd be my pick to win the entire conference if they had Jake.
It's not even a joke. Like, it's true. Like, they are a creative veteran quarterback away from being like one of the favorites among Texas Tech and Iowa State.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, they don't have that guy, but I do believe their team is very good. Moving forward here, I'm dropping Baylor. I think I had them in my 4 spot, and I'm dropping them to the 6 spot. I know Kevin had them lower. My thoughts on Baylor are basically they lost to a very good Arizona State team. They still have, in my opinion, the guy who's probably played the best quarterback in the entire conference thus far this season. And I think that alone makes them a really, really tough team to beat. But I think that they're a step below like what a true contender in this conference looks like. And I think that maybe my top 5 is really the teams that I think has a shot at possibly winning this whole thing at this point. And I know this changes all the time. And, last week you would have been like, oh, ASU, even though I probably would have been like, I think ASU still is very much a contender for this conference.
I would have said they still could have contended.
Yeah. But I think like for me this week, like I feel like, to me, clear line in the sand, BYU's not winning it. Kansas is not winning it, just because I don't think those teams have enough. And I think Baylor is one step below what a contending team looks like. But then you move into Utah, who I have 5, and they drop from 2 to 5 here for me, Kevin. I still think that there's a chance Utah could compete for this conference, but man, losing at home and your defense capitulating like that and your quarterback kind of showing what your boy maybe was talking about with Devin Dampier all offseason.
People are talking. Was Damon right the whole time?
I think I was, Kevin. And like, excuse me for not taking a victory lap, like everybody else was when, Utah's beating Wyoming and people are like, are you watching Devin Dampier? He's the best quarterback in the country. Dude. And you're like, we'll do our Big 12 quarterback power rankings, Kevin, and put Fafita 1 spot ahead of Dampier. And then people will be like, he's a Heisman contender. Who's he played against? Like, what? I don't truly understand what those people were watching. I think he's a very, very good player. I don't think he's a needle mover.
Well, see,
I just don't think he has the ability at the power conference level to be a needle mover.
That's like kind of where that's kind of like where I kind of shoot the difference there with you, Damon. Like where I extend the olive branch to your Devin Dampier take, because also shout out to Deborah Owens. Shout out to Deborah Owens, a new MVP member. MVP.
Love it.
MVP.
Love it.
Shout out to you. And if you want to be just as cool as Deborah Owens and Max and myself and AZ Cat Dan and AZ Cats G, become an MVP member. It's like $4.99 a month. You get a free super chat. So for the price of 1 super chat, you can become a member of the Supporters Club. And boom, look at all the benefits you get. You get that bear down. That's not even on the graphic, but you do get a new bear down emote because we've had so many Wildcats Supporters Club members, Damon, that Espo came to us and said, look, we got to up the emojis for the Wildcats because you guys have too big of a fan base. We have to show how big of a fan base you guys have. So shout out to Deborah Owens, also a Merc fan as well, Mighty Mercury. We're going to get that dub in game 2. But yes, like I said, quick little Supporters Club shout out. If you want to see us keep doing cool stuff on this show, like what we did at Media Day, that is a great way to show love and support with just like less than a medium coffee at most places. So yeah, shout out to Deborah Owens. Shout out to all our MVPs in the chat. And like we were saying about Devon Dampier, right? Like he is not the Heisman candidate. That's what I was getting at. Like when we did our quarterback rankings, we did have people that were like, dude, so the guy that's on all the Heisman rankings is like 5th on your board. And it's like, yeah, because he's on the Heisman rankings doesn't mean that I have to look at it and be like, oh, yeah, for sure, I agree with you. The same way they're looking at my rankings and disagreeing with it, I can look at the Heisman and disagree with that. So like, I was higher on Dampier than like you were per se, but not as high as like some Utah fans were. And I'll out myself here in a way. I tweeted and deleted on Saturday, Damon. Devin Dampier was 7 for 7 and looked pretty good. Like he looked pretty decent to start that game. And I tweeted, Devin Dampier has done miracles for Utah's offense. And then he threw a pick like instantly, and I was like,
damn, you deleted that?
Because it just didn't last for more than a quarter.
Kevin, that's not 10 toes down.
I didn't believe what I said anymore.
That's like 5 toes down and 1 foot up in the air.
But see, that's why I deleted it though, because I wasn't even 10 toes down in the miracles take. What does a miracle mean?
I forgot what I tweeted. I've been tweeting some stuff recently where it's just like immediate, just in my face, the opposite happens.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn.
It's the equivalent of like making a live bet and then the team goes on like a 0-10 run against your team that you just bet on and you wish you could just delete the last hour of your life's decisions. And that's kind of where I was at. But yeah, Devin Dampier, good for Utah, but I don't think he's going to like necessarily take them to the promised land. He is showing a lot of promise early on against UCLA, against Wyoming, right? And it's showing that the offense had translated from New Mexico, the kind of system they were running there.
Yeah.
But like, now we've seen it against, and also I don't want to like come out and go way too far the other way with Devin Dampier because it was Texas Tech. Texas Tech might have a top 5 defense in the country.
Yeah, they might.
So like I don't want to overreact the other way and say like, and I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I'm saying like I don't want to shift it too far and be like Devin Dampier can't lead Utah in any way at all, right? And it's just like, well, he played a top 5 defense in the country maybe, and so maybe we should temper those expectations the way that they're dropping a little bit.
And to our point, and mostly my point all off season long, it was like, what is he going to do against the upper echelon of teams that he's going to go against?
Yes.
Is he going to look like what he looked like at New Mexico? Highly, highly doubt that, right? Like this is just an entirely different world of football that we're talking about. And I think we saw what Devin Dampier looked like when the scripted plays kind of went away. Like he was great on the scripted plays, and then once it started becoming, you just got to play some backyard football a little bit more. So it wasn't really in the cards as much like it was for Texas Tech's quarterback, for example. But Kevin, the immediate one that I was talking about that reminded me was when I said I'll never give up on Kyler, quote tweeting a PHNX Cardinals highlight, and then less than 5 seconds later he throws a back-breaking interception that almost got the Panthers back into that football game, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I think for me, like Utah, still great, still very good, maybe just not as good as these other 4 teams I have ahead of them. But I'll let you do your top 4 first.
Yes, let's look at my top 4. So just the full power rankings here. Texas Tech, the new kings of the Big 12 Conference. I believe Damon had that last week. Iowa State,
no big deal,
goes down to number 2 on mine after a bye week. Just simply did not compete this week. Utah, I think honestly, I could have dropped Utah further, but I just didn't feel like it was fair. I know that it was not. Look,
it wasn't even close.
I want to throw this out there about Utah and Kyle Whittingham. Utah fans would have you believe, and honestly, I was kind of drinking the Kool-Aid too. They're like, Reese Eccles and this environment, no one can play there. And I get it. Arizona got them last year, right? And secretly, I don't know if we have any Utah fans right now, so I don't want to like trigger anybody, but BYU has more Big 12 wins in Salt Lake than Utah.
So do we.
Yeah. But I think it hurts extra when it's your rival.
Oh, for sure.
What I mean? Like,
for sure.
And that's the thing. Like, Utah in the Big 12, it's been a lot of bark and not a lot of bite. And I think this was the game for me that I'm done listening to the bark. I was listening to it preseason. I was listening to it when they beat UCLA, right? I'm like, okay, Devin Dampier. Okay, the new offense. Okay, this defense is legit. And the defense is somewhat legit, even though they got tired at home versus Texas Tech. A lot of question marks for Utah coming out of that game, but not too many because it was Texas Tech, and they might be one of the best teams, not only in the conference, but in the country. Coming in number 4, TCU, go Frogs. Josh Hoover looked incredible against SMU.
Yeah, he did.
I didn't catch every single snap of that game.
He's the celebrations were off the charts from Josh Hoover.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need to see a little bit more of that on Friday night, Joshua.
Yeah, and I think like when you're talking about Josh Hoover, and we're going to get to that in our quarterback rankings tomorrow. We do those bi-weekly here on the show, so tune in for that tomorrow as well. He looks incredible, and I know coming into this year it was Sawyer Robertson and Sam Leavitt. Who else is going to take over this conference? It really should have been Sawyer Robertson and Josh Hoover. Yeah. Who's going to take over this conference? Because Sawyer Robertson looked good for Baylor against ASU. And I know SMU is in the ACC, and they're not necessarily the best, actual team. But Josh Hoover looked like a Heisman candidate against SMU. And so I feel like that's why TCU stays where they are on my list. So just to round it out, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Utah top 3, TCU and Arizona State round out the top 5 on my list, with KU, Arizona, BYU, Houston, Baylor rounding out the top 10. Cincinnati stays at 11, and then Colorado and Deion Sanders, UCF, West Virginia, K-State, and Oklahoma State.
9 toes down.
Rounding out the Big 12 Conference.
Kevin, Josh Hoover this weekend, 22 of 40, 379 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Oh, he did have one. Sorry, I thought he had none. I was like, wow.
Unbelievable performance from Josh Hoover against a good team, against a good SMU team. I mean, I know they have 2 losses now, but like they're solid. They're a solid team. They were in the playoff last year. So yeah, I mean, I think Josh Hoover is unbelievable, and yeah, he's certainly one of the upper echelon quarterbacks here in this conference, if not the top dog so far this season. But let's get into my top 4. And I'm moving TCU up from 5 to 4. They, get a big win versus SMU, and they gear up for an absolute marquee matchup on Friday night against my number 3 team, who moves up from 6 to 3, I believe. And I think it's time we had our fun, Kevin. It was a good time. We got to make our jokey jokes, and we got the cowbell, and we rang it on the start of our pregame show, our Weber State game, because who cares about the Weber State game? ASU lost. And, it was fun. But I do think truly at the end, in my heart of hearts, I think ASU is very good. I predicted them to beat Baylor on the road this weekend. It was obviously a good call. And I think that their defense makes them contenders in this conference. I've been saying that for a long time. I also will say, as much as like I've been hard on Sam Leavitt, and I think Sam Leavitt played a good game. It wasn't like it was some groundbreaking game where it was like, man, Sam Leavitt really carried. But one thing that you need to point out is that I think ASU ran for like 3.8 yards per carry, Kevin. And, that run game has been very good all season long. They went up against a not very good defensive team in Baylor. And they weren't running the football effectively. So what do they turn to? Their quarterback, who gets the job done, leads a field goal drive at the end of the game. Like, you got to give Sam Leavitt credit for that. And for that reason, I think that ASU is a top 3 team. And then the top 2 is not really a debate for me. I think that you got to have these teams top 2 in any particular order. But after Texas Tech's dominance, I'm keeping them at 1 for sure. And Kevin, I didn't want to put them 1 this whole time we were talking about it, because of Mom's Meatloaf, obviously, and my very public beef I have with Baron Morton for
no pun intended.
One meal for the rest of his life. He's choosing his mom's meatloaf, and you just can't win with a guy like that. Proven fact. You put in the backup, and he's unbelievable.
He ices the game,
dude. I was sitting there like this watching my television.
I was stunned. It was a special, like, genuinely, it was one of those moments where it's like, oh, is this how Will Hammond's origin story begins?
Yeah.
As like a freshman on the road in Utah, icing the game to take control of the conference.
That dude might be cold.
And it's not like, here's the thing with Will Hammond that like really made me feel like he was like, I'm going to say the word special. You know what I mean? But like the dual threat ability, the confidence, he didn't look shaken at all. Stepping in like a sudden change situation on the road and not gotta have it, but like a huge statement for your program if you can win this game. And every throw he made 1 bad throw, and it still got to the target. It was just on the wrong shoulder. It was that throw to the left pylon in the end zone where his receiver like went to turn, I believe, to his right, and the ball went to his left, so he had to try to readjust. That was the only mistake he made, was throwing it to the wrong shoulder. Every ball was on the money. I know Joel Klatt, is not everybody's favorite commentator, but like he made a great point of like when you're throwing those routes over the middle, they have to be right here. They have to be on the frame of the receiver. Yeah. And every single ball he threw over the middle was boom, dead center of the chest. And every ball he threw had that perfect spiral. He's whipping it out there. Like he looked like a pro quarterback. He looked like a pro prospect. And I didn't even mention how fast he was and how elusive he was. I understand that there's no tape on Will Hammond. So if you're the Utah defense, I give you a little bit of grace there, for right? Sure. But there's an extent to which like tape can't stop that spiral he's whipping out there. Tape can't slow him down, from a speed standpoint. That was a truly impressive performance. We were talking about it like via text on Saturday. I guess you and I were just live watching these sports, you know what I mean? But like quarterback rankings tomorrow, like I don't know where to put Will Hammond.
Dude, if we're switching out, because that's the thing. Like, and actually, Kevin, let's pull this into overtime and let's finish out this conversation regarding who we got as our Big 12 power rankings leaders. But do you think Texas Tech is going to bench Baron Morton because he's coming back, right? What was the extent of his injury?
I don't know. I would love for you to find that because it felt.
It felt different watching Will Hammond play football. Like I'm telling you, like I know that you're right? Like these defensive coordinators who are so good at their jobs, they don't have any tape on this kid yet, so it's gonna oftentimes look pretty good out the gates. But what I was watching was like special. Like it was,
awesome.
It was not like just like, oh, this kid is just like, he's just dialing it up on all cylinders. It's like, no, he's running around playing backyard football and he looks unstoppable. And it's like, if you're going to just get 13 of 16 for 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, and 61 yards on the ground on 8 carries, Kevin, like, how could you not start him? He threw less passes than Baron Morton, completed more passes and threw for more yards, had 2 touchdowns to 0 picks compared to 0 touchdowns to 2 picks. I mean, he was just flat out a better quarterback, and he's pretty much been better than, I've seen out of Baron Morton thus far. Like,
what year is Baron Morton again?
I think he's a senior.
Okay, because if he's a senior, I could see him getting the job the rest of the year. Because like we've said, like 1.5 good quarters from Will Hammond, I don't think should lose Baron Morton the job that he's won over the course of the offseason and over the course of the fall and all of that. But like, and I don't want to like make it seem like I'm trying to come at Baron Morton here, but like that decision he made to like half slide and more stumble that got himself taken out of that game. Because that was not targeting as they picked up. Thank you. As they picked up the flag on that one, like it was just him stumbling, bumbling, and getting rocked, and then getting taken out of the game. And Will Hammond steps in, and he's not making a single mistake. So I think that like Morton gets the job, but then as soon as Morton leaves campus,
the leash has gotten a lot thinner, man, a lot thinner. Because
and it's like
Will Hammond looked special.
He did, and like when they put Will Hammond into that game, all of a sudden Texas Tech. Like they were flirting with looking like a top, team in not only the Big 12 but in the country. And then when Will Hammond stepped in, I was like, this team could win it all. Like this team could do it, the whole damn thing. And like what Baron Morton really doesn't bring that Will Hammond does is that like true dual threat ability, right? And I think there was like a fearlessness to Will Hammond that Baron Morton didn't have. And I'm not saying that Baron Morton is like a scared little, kitty cat or nothing, but I am saying that like for a freshman to step in, and I know that, Starter is in the chat saying like he was an elite recruit. I'm not truly surprised that he showed that level of skill set, but I still am. To step in the road environment, I know that we were making fun of Reese Eccles because it's not the most crazy environment, but it's up there. It really is up there still.
Especially in a big game like that.
Huge game, huge consequences. You're not even thinking that you might start or come out and play in this game. And you go out and kill like that, ice like that in your veins. Like that is real starting high-level college football quarterback kind of stuff from Will Hammond. That was special. That was really special. But yeah, to round out
I agree, Glenn. I think that Baron Morton is a kid that's from Lubbock, Texas, who's a senior. He's started for multiple years. He is going to be given the job back, in my opinion. Is that the right move, though? And Texas Tech might win the conference anyways.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. From what I've seen, like that was truly a groundbreaking type of performance. But I almost like, I know I did the gimmick with Oklahoma State, like being like, let's move them down, even though they were last. I almost did the same thing with Texas Tech because I was like, what I watched out of Will Hammond was like, they're better than I thought they were going into that game. And Texas Tech really made a statement on Saturday. They absolutely made a statement on Saturday. So those are our Big 12 power rankings, Kevin. Glenn says mine looks like it was done by an ASU fan. Listen, man, as much as I like to have fun and I'm I guess the devil, for lack of a better word, in this on your guys' perspective from this rivalry, I feel that I'm a very honest man. I try to be, at least. This isn't the PHNX Sun Devils show where they're going to go over there and say things that they don't even believe to fire up the fan base and be like, Arizona sucks. Or they're going to lose to Hawaii, aren't they? And it's like, you don't even think that, man.
Are there going to be more fans or points scored in the game? I love Eric Ruby, though.
I do love Mr. Rubis and Mr. Totri, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that they're despicable scumbags at the same time.
Correct.
Two things can be true.
Correct.
I love those scumbags.
Yes.
I think this is definitely like I've kind of feel like I've gotten my basis of and my spine, if you will, Kevin, of how I feel that most of my power rankings are going to go for the rest of the season. But I do think from an Arizona perspective, I am being maybe just a little bit more apprehensive in terms of like, I don't want to fully be like, man, this team is really, really good yet. Because
it's fair.
I don't know if I'm ready to be hurt like that again.
It's very fair.
But I also told you going into this season that I'm ready to be hurt again because I just wanted to have any sort of expectations, and now we kind of do. So, I think that from that perspective, like Arizona could definitely move up in these rankings on my list. I think you have them in a pretty fair spot as well. But it's gonna be fun conference all year long, and can't wait for next week's power rankings, Kevin.
I'm excited. I'm even more excited for tomorrow's quarterback rankings, Damon. It's gonna get crazy.
Where is Damon gonna have Devin Dampier?
Is Will Hammond the best quarterback in all of college football? Find out tomorrow.
Can I put a picture of Meatloaf as one of the things and put it lower than Will Hammond? That's why almost like I feel like, and I know that like I love the power rankings because it's just gonna be 16 teams set every week. But with the quarterback ones, I almost want to do like a tier maker, so we can just add in more and more quarterbacks, like, because there are times where this guy's getting some run and then this guy's getting some run. So it just looks a little bit different from here and there. And yeah, Mom's Meatloaf could get his own category titled Mom's Meatloaf. But I'm just going to keep that beef going for the entirety of the rest of Baron Morton's life, Kevin. That's just who he is.
As you should. Yeah. And I hope that you get to somehow hash it out with him in real life.
That would be great. If I saw that video before I went to Big 12 Media Day, I absolutely would have been like, what's the deal? just put him on the spot live.
So what was that about? Huh? What was that about, Meatloaf Morton?
Kevin, did you have anything else for us before we got out of here today?
No, I wanted to mention that, like we said off the top of the show, Tommy Lloyd did take an in-home visit with 5-star Cameron Williams. Damon and I are going to do a trending podcast, so keep alert. Get those noties on for YouTube. Stay tuned with what we have as far as the latest information with Arizona basketball recruiting. And then, Bruce Pearl retired, Damon. I don't know if you have any thoughts or comments or concerns on that. Arizona, upcoming opponent this year, will be coached by a new man, his son.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I do find, like, not that Auburn was some, like, groundbreaking basketball program, so it's like I understand Bruce Pearl kind of made them relevant, so they're giving him some of the respect, but have the lifetime contracts and the secession plans to sons and stuff, has that not gotten a little bit out of control in college basketball? Yeah. It feels like it has, of like, this guy's gonna be the coach here until the day he dies, and you're like, okay,
yeah.
What did like who someone got that recently, for example, and it was like a weird one where you're like,
oh, I remember we were talking about this,
what?
About what did he do to necessarily deserve. Damn, who was that? We just discussed this on this podcast like a month ago. Chat, remind us if you can. But yeah, no, wasn't it Bill Self?
No, Bill Self. It was Rick Barnes.
Rick Barnes.
Bill Self has had a lifetime contract.
Yeah.
But that one makes sense.
It does make sense.
Bill Self is a multi-time national champion.
Shout out
he won the Big 12 Conference 20 years in a row. Like, he totally deserves it. The Rick Barnes aspect is like, again, I understand Tennessee is not some groundbreaking basketball program, and he's brought them to heights that's higher than basically they've ever gone. That being said, Rick Barnes has 0 Final Fours in his entire college basketball coaching career, and he's on a lifetime contract? That's nuts.
Yeah, that's brutal. And
Scott Drew got one, right? Like, and Scott Drew has a national championship recently, but he's kind of fallen off since then.
Yeah.
Like, I just think all of it has gotten a little. I don't even want Tommy Lloyd to get a lifetime contract, and I love Tommy Lloyd. Like, I just think that's you're locking yourself in for so long, and it's just kind of insane.
Yeah, and then, like, I don't know, life just happens. Things change. People's perspective change. Bruce Pearl wakes up one day and says, you know what, I'm retiring. My son Steven's taking over. And then they drop that video where he's sitting at his desk with his family. Everybody gets up except for Steven. So I guess that the whole family just disowned Steven Pearl so that he, like, leave him on the island. He coaches Auburn now. I haven't talked to him in years. That was a joke. But, like, no, like, it was kind of shocking to me for him to just up and leave, like, what are we? 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the season actually tips off. And it's like, did the team know ahead of time? Did, like, the recruits know? I was seeing, like, tweets and quotes from recruits about, like, no, I didn't know that this was going to happen. And yeah, it's just a really, really strange thing. Like you said earlier, I think the whole succession plan thing is strange, Damon, because I'm sure that the Auburn AD has been briefed on all the succession plan and is cool with it and all that stuff. But don't you want a shot at just the free market of coaches? Would you not? Like, when you just you would think that you would have, as Auburn, first dibs on Bruce Pearl's son, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not necessarily like a slap in the face to the Pearl family if you wanted to do an interview process.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, if you wanted to go find a coach and then come back and be like, hey, you know what? We think Steven's the best for the job, but we did our due diligence, and that's just all we wanted to do. That's not offensive. And so I think the succession plan is like a little weird, especially for a guy like his son who hasn't done what he's about to do at like this level. And I like you said earlier, Auburn's not like a blue blood program, but it's like, it's not a small one. You know what I mean? Like this is a big first job to just get. And so, yeah, it's interesting, these little succession plans.
Especially the level they're at right now. Like that, having just played a national championship game, I think, that almost boosts you up a notch.
It does.
For example. But
it does.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It'll be weird to see kind of how that continues in college basketball. Lots of SEC schools doing that in particular, it feels like. But, yeah, I don't quite get it. But, oh, well, not our problem, Kevin.
If anything, it makes it easier for Arizona.
It is when we play Auburn later this season in our non-conference. And I think that game gets a little bit easier for Arizona. It's way too early to speculate on that, I think. But, yeah, maybe this affects Arizona in a positive way in a very short-term type of environment here. But, Kevin, we are going to do a trending pod on Cameron Williams. Will the top 10 consensus recruit, 5-star power forward out of Phoenix, commit to the Wildcats and continue a long line of Phoenix Valley area hoopers who commit to the premier basketball program on the West Coast? We will find out. We're going to talk about that, all that, and more. So make sure that you guys are tuned into our YouTube channel and waiting for that video to release. And also, before we get out of here, just want to say happy birthday to Lute Olson, who would have been 91 today. The man who put us on the map, Kevin, and probably the reason that we're sitting here doing this podcast, of course. Happy birthday, Lute. I'll say it. Maybe I should just say it to his face.
Happy birthday, Lute.
Happy birthday, Lute. Everybody tell Lute happy birthday. But, shout out Lute Olson for maybe being the reason that Kevin and I are sitting in front of you today doing this fine podcast. But that's going to do it for us today. Like I said, be on the lookout for this Cameron Williams trending pod. And we will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. regularly scheduled showtime. Kevin and I are going to be breaking down Iowa State versus Arizona throughout the entire rest of the week, as well as doing some Big 12 QB power rankings. Make sure that you guys are there for that and ready to tell us how stupid we are and argue with us for our garbage rankings. I am Damon Dog. Of course, you can follow me there at Damon Dog at CWG. You can follow my guy Kevo Post at Kevo Post, KEVOPOSTS. And you can follow us at PHNX_Wildcats on all social media, except for TikTok, where we're at AZ Wildcats Pod. And Kevin, the numbers, they just keep growing on TikTok every damn day, because that's what my boy does. Just put in the hard hours, the grind on the TikTok. But that's going to do it for us today. He's Kevin. I'm Damon. We're the AZ Wildcats Pod. And until next time, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. Oh, it's game week, ladies and gentlemen.
We all silly like the mayor.